Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Fixed on Jesus podcast. My name is Rich. I'm joined by Mark Johnson Jr. just across the table. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm all right. Long time no see.
I know we've been wearing the same clothes for a while.
A
and
long time. Yeah,
you actually
exactly.
wouldn't know it, but we have the same tennis shoes on, but they
Well,
can't see
that's a
under
little
there.
weird. Let's not get into that. So behind the glass, we have the intrepid Heather Corbett. How you doing, Heather?
She's doing great.
Just waving her hands and saying she's doing really well, and she's super grateful for us, even though she's not mic'd up and we can't hear that part. But we're just making sure that everybody understands that. Now, we're also now joined by Liz Beck. Liz, thanks again for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. It's been fun. You guys are just a barrel of laughs over here.
This is where it starts now. Break on through. Here we go.
Previously on Fixed on Jesus.
I had done a lot of meetings with foundations and, organizations that help other organizations get loans for capital projects and things like that. I had applied for a grant from
Right.
Dignity Health, and everyone was supportive of the idea and the vision, but no one was willing to take a risk financially to make it happen.
Yeah,
Because all we had at the time was a meeting.
right.
There was no asset. There was no model except look. And they're like, well, AA does that.
But you identified the problem. You identified the stumbling block for someone getting counseling and getting discipled and evangelized to separating them from their kids was a huge
Yes.
barrier of entry. Is that fair to say?
Well, yeah, just having a stable place to live.
Right.
They didn't have stable housing. And that's where we had one woman who was here at our very first meeting, and she had a baby. And she ended up staying with me multiple times over several years because there was no place for her to go. She couldn't financially support herself and be a mom. And so she always ended up back in bad situations, and she ended up relapsing. And it was just this constant struggle for her. And I think that's where, just seeing this continue to happen, we have to provide housing for them, or we can't. If we don't take care of the practical needs, we're never going to be able to even start to help them with the spiritual needs too. Like, we have to do both.
Right. That's right. And
That's right.
so you were also inclined to make sure that they were prepared to enter back into to life, essentially. It wasn't just, we're going to put you in this bubble and you're going to
Correct.
learn and grow in this bubble, and then we're going to throw you back in. How much of teen, Teen
Teen Challenge.
Challenge, that impacted you, your thinking? You're like,
Yes.
you saw that maybe not, I'm sure plenty of good has happened in that,
Yeah.
but I'm sure that impacted your decision-making ability for the way you wanted to set up your foundation.
Yeah. We have to teach them how to live, right?
Right.
We can't just remove them from all the obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
We have to teach them to face those hardships and to do that in a way that honors the Lord, to not run away or just be completely isolated from the trials and difficulties of life, but teach them how to navigate them and navigate those things in a godly way. And so, we do have a lot of structure and accountability. Some people would look at it and think that we're very controlling, but what we're doing is we're teaching. And so early on, they come in and their life is complete chaos. And so we're trying to bring peace into those situations and actually then start to build a foundation. So we have to kind of remove a lot of things, a lot of barriers. And so we start to build a foundation. And then as they start to learn we're making a lot of decisions for them, but as they grow and they get more stable, then they start working. And so I'm not going to tell them where they can work, but we're going to talk about what is a job situation for you right now that is doable. Like, how many hours is feasible for you to work? It depends on the age of your children. If you have a newborn, working 50 hours a week is probably not something you can do. If you're single, you could probably work 50 hours a week. You know what I mean? Like, just those kinds of things. What are your skill sets? What are your, what are you good at? And all of that. So there's a lot of different things that we kind of guide them through good decision making. They all have to come to church because we want them to be hearing the word of God. We want them to be sitting under good teaching. We want them to be seeing what a good church looks like, so that when they're done with the program, if this isn't the church that God's called them to be a part of, that they know what that church looks like and what the kind of church they should be looking for. And so those are all parts of life. So literally everything is kind of, we're guiding them through it. And we have daily phone calls with them about, like, how are you thinking about life? What are the stresses? And so, like what we talked about in one of the earlier episodes about, the person who relapses, the kind of conversation I have with them is very different than just don't do that again.
Right.
But it's like, so now we're in daily conversations about, okay, so when you woke up this morning and you're getting ready for work, what were you thinking about? Right. And so what kind of stresses do you have? And so, like, along the way, trying to figure out, like, how do we actually do this? And I remember we started daily phone calls with the ladies after a situation with Danielle, when I was seeing a pattern in her life, and it was affecting the way that she lived and the way she related to the Lord. And I had talked with her about it several times, where I thought she was, believed that God was angry with her. And she's like, no, I know that God loves me. But functionally, she was living as though God was angry with her. And so we started having daily phone calls. And in those daily phone calls, she was sharing something with me. And I said, that's what I'm talking about. That's what looks like you think God is angry at you. And she was like, oh, you're right. So those daily phone calls of just understanding thought processes. And so for several months, we worked on the Lord is slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love and in faithfulness. And so we worked on that in real ways that were affecting her life and how she related to her children, and seeing how this one thing was just so infiltrated into so many parts of her life, and how she, how it affected her, even her ability to come to the Lord, or so those are the things that we learned along the way of why those daily phone calls are important and how we do this connecting in everyday moments. So that's kind of how we kind of learned all of that. We developed all of this.
Right. So now you're able to discern patterns and kind of apply some of those systems that you learned through Danielle and others to the masses. If you could quickly, now you don't have to spend as much time as you want, from the day someone comes in, what is their end goal and what are the steps in between?
Well, when we opened Freedom House, we, in 2021, we expanded and we got a bigger house. And so we were bringing a lot more people in, but we were seeing that there was a lot of instability, and we couldn't mix the instability with the stability. And it was very disruptive, especially for the kids. So we opened another house, more of a crisis house. And we start there with the crisis house, where they come in. A lot of them are homeless. They're living in cars, or staying with, or they're coming out of another program and they don't have anywhere to go. So they come in there, and the first 30 days or so is just establishing good patterns of structure. So if a mom comes in, the first day that she's there, we have a parenting team come in and just do bedtime routine. Because establishing a bedtime routine is an immediate safety for the kids. Like they know, okay, this is a safe place, and there's just something about that. So just as simple as being stable and having safety, that's the first thing we do. And then as they gain stability in the crisis house and it looks like they're a good fit to go on to Freedom House, then we start, putting in, starting a job and starting counseling and getting them on a path to transition over to the other house. And we start introducing the moms and the kids from each house together, and they start spending time together so that the transition isn't so drastic. It's, our friends are moving in. So there's a familiarity with them. And so there's this growing stability and responsibility that happens. And so that's in every part of life. I mean, at the crisis house, we have volunteers that come in the mornings, and they do devotions with the ladies. So immediately they're hearing the gospel and they're understanding more about who Jesus is and what that looks like for their life. So they're hearing all of those things, and there's just this stability that happens for each one of them, and there's just these beautiful things that happen even in just gaining stability, that kids get more settled in. We're identifying the needs that women have. And so every woman has a different care plan, so it looks a little different, but we have a list of outcomes for the 2 years that they're usually with us. And how each outcome is achieved is going to be different depending on each woman. But it's basically getting them ready to live independently, to live on their own, to financially support themselves, to be able to be a part of a local church. That's one of the biggest, most important things for me, is that they're established in a local church, that far beyond the program, they're going to be well cared for and connected. And if they're not, then to me, that's a failure, because that's going to be an important part of any Christian's growth, is being connected into a local church. So we spend a lot of time with connection points along the way. And eventually they get involved in a small group. And, we just evaluate where they are in the process, because jumping into a small group when you're brand new in the program isn't wise, there's just some time that it takes to get stable. So we're just looking at each situation individually, but the goal is for them to be meaningfully connected into a local church body, able to care for themselves and their children, a growing understanding of, when to reach out to church family and how to share life. So we're modeling a lot of the ways that the church functions. We're modeling that in the house. And so we kind of start to teach them how you live life together in this house is how you want to live life in the church.
Yeah.
So they're starting to understand that dynamic, because they haven't done that before.
They don't have any background in that.
Yeah, and over time you see them they make a ton of connections in the church.
Yes.
And then so their connections outside or in the church are just as strong as in the house.
Correct.
And so that makes it a lot easier for them to transition, so that they have a support system, an accountability system and such that is built in because they're connected to the church.
Correct.
And oftentimes they get saved. I mean, we could go down some of the lists, but like lots of people who have heard the gospel, the penny drops, they understand who Jesus is. They understand, deconstruct some of their background, and then, get saved and baptized.
Yep.
I'm certainly going to ask a lot of questions about that. But so Heather, on the break, Heather gave us a question. She wanted to know if these ladies going through the program, are they required to come to our church, or can they go to any church?
Initially, they come to this local church because we want them to understand how a healthy church functions. But we know that not every person is called to be a part of this church. So around a year into the program, we start to have that discussion. Is this the church that God's called you to be a part of? Or is there another local church that God might be calling you to? And so we work with them to find a local church body that God's called them to be a part of. And they start the process of getting connected, being known by their church, being connected in a small group, because part of their completion of the program is literally handing them over to the church. So if it's a church that's not this local church, then I have a meeting with the pastor. And we work together to, this is a woman who's going to need some extra TLC. And so their small group leader needs to be aware of unique needs that she may have, and making sure that the church is prepared to care well for her and to support her. And also that she's, fully connected in that local church body.
That's wonderful. That's really cool. So I also, evangelism, if you had to guess, numbers aren't always the most helpful or the most important. But I know a handful of ladies that are in our church now that got saved, and I imagine there's others. How can you describe the Lord's faithfulness in that way?
Yeah, I think, this is a very difficult work. Not everybody wants to follow Jesus. Not everybody even wants help. We had a lady even just last week who came in, and she was here for 3 days, and she said, I'm not ready to follow Jesus. I know that going back to this life is going to cause me a lot of heartache, but I'm going to do that. and it's heartbreaking. But every person hears the gospel. And I think for those who stay, it's been this pattern that I've noticed over the years, that the first year there's a lot of practical support. They're hearing the gospel and the spiritual stuff is absolutely happening. But there's a lot of focus on just the practicals. And so those that don't really want to follow Jesus, they're maybe saved, maybe not. I can't judge that. But they've really gotten everything they can get from the program. And so a lot of them will leave at a year. It's those that stay that second year, because that second year is really digging into the deeper heart issues, the real surrender to the Lord and wanting to live a life that glorifies him. That really happens more fully in the second year. And so I think that's the real fruit that we see is in those women. And I would say that of all the ones who have completed all the way through to the 2 years, those are the ones who are still connected in local churches. They're the ones, whether they stay at this local church or not. There's one lady that moved to Idaho. And so we connected her there. And I had Zoom meetings with women in the church ahead of time and talked with the pastor and like handed her over. And she's still connected to the people here. And she'll still check in, and she'll text me a question, or she'll send me a book, and she'll say, is this a book that's good that I should be reading? Like, she's still, she's still a part of her local church, but she still values the inputs and stuff of the people here. And so I think those are the ones that keep me going for sure. But every woman hears the gospel, and their lives, the ones who even have had, multiple months in the program, their lives are all better for, having gotten stability. And that's still something that I have to remember, to not think those are failures,
Right.
that those are still victories in and of themselves. And we still made an impact in those women's lives in some way. And I don't know what the Lord will do in the future for them, that the seeds were planted. They were well loved. Mm-hmm. Their children experienced stability and love and care. And I have to trust the Lord with the outcome. And I hope that someday I will see some of those ladies in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. I mean, one of the reasons this work is hard is because for every success, there's 3 or 4 or 5
or more
or 7
yeah,
who say, forget this.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been involved in some of them. I mean, and some of them crash and burn quite spectacularly, which is always really hard to see.
Yeah.
I mean, you pour your heart and soul into helping and supporting someone who ends up just saying, I'm not interested.
And over the years with leading the recovery meeting, there's a lot of people who have died.
Yeah.
A lot of people that have died.
Yeah, I remember the one, there was a meeting, oh goodness, that would have been Caroline, Willie. And so talk about that meeting. What happened? Do you remember that meeting?
Yeah, it was August 28th, 2014. And it was, so we had just started the meetings. They had only been going for like 6 weeks or so. And Caroline and Willie were coming, and I couldn't get in. I had nothing for that meeting. I had no content, and it was Wednesday night, Thursday morning, and I still had nothing for that Thursday night meeting. And around 7:30, Caroline called me, and she said that Willie died, and she needed me to come over. And so when I got there, the police were still there, and it was really hard. I mean, just being there and, walking into her apartment once it was released, and, still having the smell of death in the house was really hard. And so I called Trey, and I was like, can you lead the meeting tonight? Because I can't do it. Like, I need to be here with her. And just being there with her that day. And she said, no, I need to be at the meeting. Those are my people, and I need to be with the people. And so Trey led the meeting that night, but Caroline was here, and that was her baby's dad. so that Caroline was the one that always needed, she's the one that stayed with me multiple times,
Right.
and I remember one time she was living with me and she said to me, she looked at me one day and she goes, "Man, your life is a mess." And I was like, "I know." It was like, just like living that close together, I mean, she's thinking that my life is all, tidy, and I was having a lot of conflicts with my children. And it was just like, life was just happening. And, just for her to see like, wow, you really don't have it all together, but yet you're still helping me, it's just like that. Those are the cool things about serving people, is that the impact, even if your life is still chaotic, is, you're still trying to do things, but you're following the Lord, you're trusting in the Lord through your own life stuff. But yeah, that was a tough meeting. And we've had quite a few.
There's been a surprising number of people die.
Yeah.
And that's the part of this that's so hard. The success stories are amazing when you see them trust Jesus. The failures are tragic.
Yeah.
And how do you continue to say, I'm going to keep going in this, knowing that, like, even with some of the past experiences with not just personally, but in the ministry, where people have rejected the Lord and gone away and died, or gone away and entered into their addiction again? How do you keep going?
I think the part for me where my own theology really informs that for me. I mean, it's hard though. I mean, as a staff, we have cried over people. I mean, every week at staff meeting, we pray, and we really pray and, ask God to move in the lives of these people. And we've cried over deaths. I mean, they have happened more than more than you can really believe. But I think for me is just knowing that I don't know what God knows.
Yeah.
And I don't know what those last moments were for those people. I know that they heard the gospel. I know that we were faithful to share the gospel. We never back down on that. We never shy away from that. And I don't know. I don't know. I have to just trust the Lord with all of that, because I just know. I remember one time in one of the sermons, Rich, you preached and you said, we're just the lampstand. We're just the lampstand, like that. We're just holding the light of Christ. And that helps me a lot too. Like, I don't change anybody. I don't save anybody. But I can tell them about Jesus, and I have to trust that God's going to do what God's going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep coming. There's days where I don't want to do this anymore. It's too hard. And the Lord always meets me there. And I think too, like, when Jesus said to the disciples, "Are you going to leave too?" And they're like, "Where else would we go?"
Yeah, right.
Where else would we go? Like, you have the words of life. I think that's like, I don't know what else I would be doing. Like, this is the most amazing job, is that I get to sit with people and just tell them about Jesus. And so, yeah, we cry a lot together. We laugh a lot together. These ladies are walking through really, really hard situations. And now that we're serving men too, like, they've been through a lot, and their greatest need is not sobriety. Their greatest need is to know a Savior.
Jesus, yeah.
And
right.
And so that's what we do. And I have to trust the Lord with all the rest.
Which is hard.
Yeah.
Because how do you guard against I could be giving a ton of time and energy and just investing part of myself into this person, and they're just going to walk away.
Yeah. But Jesus did that with Judas.
Yes, right.
And he knew the outcome much more than I do.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
So I don't know. I don't know the story of each person, but I'm going to be faithful with each one, and I'm going to love them each the same. And I'm going to walk in as deep a muck as they need, and help them to understand how their hope is in Jesus. And this doesn't mean that their circumstance is going to change. but their hearts will.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's much more important.
Far more important, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, we see how God restores so many things.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Cece who is getting ready to finish the program, and that girl, I didn't know if she'd ever finish.
She's in my small group.
Yeah, I mean, that I was like, this girl's never going to leave here. She's going to need to be here forever. And yet she came with nothing, and like so much brokenness. And she got baptized a couple months ago, and she's working on potentially buying a house as she leaves the program, and she's working on getting time with her kids restored. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea what God would do for this woman. And a lot of people invested in her. And we had a lot of hard conversations. I remember sitting at this table with her and Heidi, and she was pretty new in the program, and she was really afraid that we would kick her out because she didn't believe the Bible. And I just said to her, I said, keep asking your questions.
Yeah.
I'm not kicking you out for asking questions.
Nope.
Keep asking them. I don't know if I'll have all the answers, but keep asking them. And, just keep going, keep moving forward. And it's pretty amazing. So those are remembering them, remembering Danielle, Olivia. We have 2 staff members now that both came through the program, which is pretty amazing.
It is.
So yeah, that helps me.
Yeah.
That's good. So if someone at our church or someone else wants to serve and help, what kind of expertise do you have to have?
Just walk in the gospel in your own life. That's really the only requirement. We have training that can help you. So we need people to do all kinds of things.
Like what?
Like coming and having devotions with the men and the women. Having weekly discipleship. We have curriculum that helps you do that. Just really building relationships with them, helping them get connected into the local church, and just, helping them with all the things of life that we all go through and experience. So yeah, it's pretty rewarding. Sad too. I mean, but it's when you see someone who the Lord transforms. They were hopeless, and now their life has purpose, not because they have a new car, but because they have a new heart that was given to them by the Lord. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to serve.
And how would they two things? If someone was a candidate if someone knew someone who wanted to come to one of the houses, men or women, how would they best contact you? And the same question for serving. If someone's interested in serving, how would they contact you? And we'll link
Perfect.
anything.
If you know someone who needs to be in the houses, we have a website specific for the houses with information and applications. So that website is ahometodwell.com.
Now, just for clarity about the houses, we have 3.
Yeah.
So Liberty House.
Liberty House.
Is the 30-day.
They usually stay there for much longer if they're on track to go to Freedom House, but it's shorter term for women and children.
Okay. Freedom House.
That's the long term for women and children.
And there's like 8 bedrooms. 7?
Yes, 8 bedrooms there.
Okay.
Got to take a tour. It's wonderful.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the men's house.
The men's house, it's long term for men.
Okay.
And so we do have it set up to where they can have, like, if they have visits with their kids can like spend a weekend with them. So we set up that to where we can support dads.
Okay.
So they can stay involved with their children. So the application is on that website. If you want to serve.
Say the site again.
It's ahometodwell.com, kind of taken from Psalm 107.
There you go.
And then as far as serving, you can talk to me at church, or you can email me or call me. And
what's your email address?
Liz@hopeforaddiction.com. And we'll kind of just see what your heart is, what you like to do. We want to plug people into places that's their passion and their heart. So we have work days at the houses sometimes too. We have maintenance needs that, we need the guys to help out with some of those things. Ryan Baird is helping us with maintenance issues that we have at the house. So, there's just lots of different ways that you can serve.
So let's say through the magic of the interwebs, a pastor gets a hold of this and says, I want to have a meeting like that at our place, and I'd love to like get some of the curriculum and learn how to care for people, because really pastoral ministry, if you're shepherding people, you're going to have people like this to try to help care for. So what kind of tools are there, and where would you direct them?
We have a lot of resources on our website, hopeforaddiction.com. So we have resources for churches. We have a free toolkit that has articles, curriculum, training videos. We have a paid toolkit that has all of our resources available. And then we also have the recovery meeting, which is a partnership level. So you have to go through like a vetting process to make sure that a church is a good fit. And so all of those things in the path to get to all of that stuff is on our website.
Hopeforaddiction.com.
Hopeforaddiction.com. We also have an app that's kind of geared more toward people who are in the fight. So that's just Hope for Addiction on Google and the Apple Store. So there's devotionals in there.
This is designed for someone fighting drugs and alcohol addiction.
Yep. There's videos there. There's devotionals. So we have really resources for individuals. We have resources for churches. There's a lot there. We've been putting together a lot of good content for all these years. And there's a lot there. Check it out.
Excellent.
So if someone was compelled to give to this ministry, how would they do that? Would they do that on the website as well?
Yeah, you can do that on the website. Everything is digital these days.
Yeah.
There is.
So, yeah.
Speaking of digital, I heard a rumor that you also have a podcast.
Oh.
Yes.
All right. What's it called?
It's called Abounding Hope.
Okay.
And just in, the Lord has continued to open houses, which is amazing and awesome. And I love that. But my heart is still to equip the local church. And I don't want to get away from that just because we live in an age where churches are more reluctant to get into messy situations and be super hands-on. But I still think it's important for us to just help the church to think biblically and also to get into the mess with people. So the podcast started really just to be an encouragement, just to help you think about this issue biblically and to tell stories of God's goodness. And so our first podcast was an interview with Steve and Marianne Tong, just kind of talking about some of the things we talked about in this podcast, but just how the Tongs walked alongside our family and how that became the model for what Hope for Addiction is doing now. So there's good stories there. And then our next episodes that are coming out are more practical, talking about accountability and structure and why that is important for someone coming out of addiction and how the church shouldn't be intimidated to get in and use some of the things that we use at the houses, schedules and budgets and things like that, and how to do that. So that's kind of our next series. So there will kind of be a mix of that, but we really want to help people to think biblically about these things. And we'll be doing a series on Celebrate Recovery. In the future, we're going to be doing things about even just like biblical language, how even in the church, we have been so secularized by a lot of these terms, codependency, addiction. So we're going to do a whole series on biblical language and how to think biblically, even just in terms of these things, because when we understand these terms from a biblical perspective, then we can connect with a biblical solution. But if we're always just hearing the words of the culture, we can't so easily connect scripture. So we want to do a whole series on that, just to help people in the church just to think more biblically about these kinds of things.
Yeah, good.
That's wonderful.
That is outstanding. So check out that Hope Abounding podcast.
Abounding Hope
podcast, and that will be periodically. You'll have new episodes that are released and dropped. And
we'll link all those things. Well, not when I say we, I mean
Heather.
Someone else.
That's right.
Someone really solid and
somebody who really knows what she's doing. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Heather's amazing. She helps us with our podcast as well. So she's a rock star.
She is. She does great.
I feel like we're getting poached on, to be honest.
No. it's good.
There's
for her
plenty of Heather
spread
to
her
go
skill.
around.
Yeah. It's good for her to spread her skills around.
She's
I agree.
blessing many people with her
Indeed.
skills.
That's right. Well, Liz, thank you so much for coming in and telling us
Thank
the
you.
story. And now we know what Hope for Addiction's about even more.
Yeah.
And
The motivation behind it,
yeah, all of
your
it.
heart for
Yeah,
it,
for sure.
the model.
Ways to serve, all of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So really cool.
Awesome. Well, thank
Compelling.
you. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Our pleasure.
And if you have any questions for us, or if you just tuning in now, there's at least 2 other episodes with Liz's story as it builds. Feel free to email us at production@centergilbert.com. We just love you.
We'll see you next time.